Faster than a speeding bullet.
I ran until my muscles burned and my veins pumped battery acid.
More powerful than a locomotive.
An idea is like a virus. Resilient. Highly contagious.
Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Betterhumanology podcast, a weekly podcast where we are trying to become better human beings, whether that's through interviewing experts in their field or, as I like to say, people who are good at stuff and, pick their brains and figure out what they're doing. And then also, I and Talon and me and I and Talon do experiments every once in a while. What's up, Talon?
What's up, Jared?
And we try to make ourselves better through those experiments. And today we happen to have a great little experiment for you on coloring.
Don't laugh.
Yeah, right. I laughed when this idea was actually presented. 100% Talon's idea, but I am down for trying literally anything that could make you better. And so what we're tackling right now is adult coloring books. So if you haven't heard adult coloring books, the concept is rather simple, but what happened was, I think it was back in April of this year, coloring books started to top the charts of best-selling books. And people didn't really know why, but it was almost like a grassroots movement on people trying to use coloring books for, trying to de-stress and relax and concentrate, almost like a form of meditation, if you will, and it's kind of sweeping the nation now because after it topped the bestsellers list, CNN got a hold of it, Fox News got a hold of it, everybody, every news outlet, and now almost everyone has a coloring book. And two people who do have coloring books for sure, me and Talon. And we went for the last 2 weeks testing out coloring books and seeing if they could possibly make you a better human. But I want to get into the science a little bit more before I talk about the experiment itself. So, Talon, can you please enlighten us?
Yeah, so they're all the rage, like we heard Jared talk about. But, what are they supposed to do? They're supposed to supposedly help relieve stress and anxiety, train adult brains to better focus. And then some other weird stuff like promote independence, help fine motor skills and vision. Can be free decorating. I think that's kind of silly. And there's this thing about that I looked up about how coloring's becoming like a really social event. Like adults are getting together to drink wine and color. So I don't know about some of those things. And it can be relaxing, but
like coloring club as opposed to a book club or something.
Right. But yeah, I don't know about some of those things. But relieving stress and anxiety, helping you to focus better, and maybe some relaxation, I think, are a reason enough to put it to the test. I know it's when we say science, it's more of a theoretical science in this case because, it's really, there hasn't been that much studies done on it so far. Based on what I know, it's been used for hundreds of years in counseling, being prescribed by psychologists to clients or to people, really to help them calm their nerves or center their minds. So that's the stuff that's still done today. That was really started by even back in the old days where Carl Jung was doing that. So, I've seen it talked about with play therapy with kids and, trying to, help people open up. So I think there's lots of different ways that, coloring even for adults can be or sound like it could be helpful. So I thought that was reason enough to put it to the test and see if it would help us, other guys.
So right off the bat, dude, what were your thoughts about coloring? Because
I was optimistic about it because I am in the psychology field. I have heard of it being used, like I said, on children. So I thought for these slight things like being relaxing and relieving stress because maybe you're not focusing on some of your daily tasks and things. I think there'd be some validity to that. I thought focus would be one of the interesting ones, but. Right off the bat, I thought this would probably be something that would help us.
Yeah, and I didn't. I'm not real pro coloring.
You were
books.
scoffing. I
definitely was, man. It just seems so. Here's my point. The counterpoint right off the bat is it seems like. Would you say you're pretty artsy? Like you're an actual artist. You know how to paint and draw and everything, right?
Right.
So would you say when you're doing
AP in high school.
there you go, that solidifies it. That's just 100% fact now. So when you're doing that, when you are drawing or painting, say you're really into it, would you say that is kind of the similar, like you're not stressed, you're not thinking about anything, you're just really into your art, right?
Yeah, I honestly feel like you're probably getting the same benefits from doing that as well if that's something you do often. I do feel like maybe not when it's like an assignment for a class or something like that, but when you're just like painting or drawing on your own, you probably get the same. Yeah, you probably get the same kind of relief stress and focus benefits. Yeah, I would say so.
So I feel like a coloring book is trying to take the non-artist and give them art to try and, I guess, reach a state of what an artist would feel.
Right, the therapeutic kind of benefits from an artist doing their art to someone who's not an artist.
Exactly, and then my counterpoint goes even further, because what if you have your own art? What if your own art is fitness or maybe like fitness or something along those lines that has to do with a barbell or heavy weight or something that kind of gets you into a similar state? I mean, why does it have to be artsy? Can't you do the same thing through different activities?
Well, sure. I don't know that everybody gets the same, feeling of reduced stress and anxiety or relaxation from manipulating a barbell in an artistic manner. Like
manipulating a barbell in an artistic manner. I love that.
I put that in a fancy way, but when I go out there and I push a barbell, I'll tell you what, I'm not feeling real relaxed during it. Yeah, I might feel pretty focused, but just on trying to make sure I'm moving that weight well. So I don't know if it's giving me the same kind of almost like rehabilitating for my mind and just my emotional state benefits. So I know it sounds a little fluffy, but I really think it's different. I think there's a divide there.
Well, there's definitely something to be said, because I was listening to a podcast, I believe it was a podcast recently, and they're talking about how games can be used to combat things like PTSD and all sorts of different like mental disorders or things of that nature. Like if you had a traumatic experience or witnessed one, and you were to play Tetris within 6 hours or within 24 hours, it can significantly reduce PTSD. Like later down the line. I don't know how much it helps, for therapeutic after the fact, but immediately after the fact, if you could remember to play Tetris or do whatever, it's supposed to help you a lot in combating those symptoms. So there's obviously some sort of huge benefit to task switching the brain from your day-to-day life or whatever you may experience to something else that, takes it off of that, whether that's a game or in this case, coloring books.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I thought. That's really what it comes down to when I thought that this probably could be beneficial, is that basically anything that like you're saying that would take your mind away from the daily grind is probably going to be a little bit helpful.
So is it any better than meditation, though? I mean,
that's a good question.
I want to ask you. So we've done meditation, we've done box breathing, and now we've done coloring books, and it seems like almost everything that we're doing in some way, shape, or form is trying to de-stress the human being. And I think I mentioned this before. Are we all really that stressed out to where everything that's supposed to make us better is just simply taking stress away? But is it better than meditation? Is it better than box breathing, in your opinion, and now your experience?
You bring up such a great point. I really want to hit on. I think we're so overstressed, though, as a people.
Oh, you want to go back to that for a second?
No, I mean, even our show, real quickly, even our show, I think we're putting out like all these things that can make you better. And sometimes, oftentimes they are physically oriented or even mentally, emotionally oriented. And sometimes there's stress involved with trying to do them correctly or make sure that you have results. Or even just to get better in general, maybe that's stressful.
The whole concept of trying to be a better human could stress you out.
Yeah. I feel like that's why we try to hit on it often, is because I think with the speed of the life nowadays, I think it's helpful to have tools as an adult that can help you de-stress quickly if necessary. But
why not just live a less stressful life? Is that a possibility?
Well, and I think that's what we're trying to work towards overall. Maybe with the show, we can amalgamate enough aspects, techniques to make you live a
and then we can build our better human complex and just have
Yes.
everyone come live in it.
utopia. Perfect. That's the plan.
All right,
But
so
what's better
meditation
meditation and coloring books?
or box breathing.
I'll tell you what, coloring books is a lot easier for the newbie. You don't get maybe not quite the same. For me personally, I didn't get quite the same. I don't want to get. I mean, we're not talking about the experiment necessarily yet. Not results up front week, but I don't think I get quite the same depth, of maybe rejuvenation that I would get from meditation or even box breathing. I would probably tier it meditation 1, box breathing 2, and coloring books 3, just for how much I feel like I gain out of it when it comes to stress relief and focus. But I would say that coloring is so much easier to figure out and jump into, because really once you start, you lose yourself anyway if you put a little bit of time to it. So.
Well, and see, and maybe we can go ahead and talk about our experiences with coloring book, because what I found, so with meditation and box breathing, a big thing of what you're supposed to do is this, mindfulness and basically not thinking, right? You don't want to think during those. You want to try and let the thoughts pass and really just be mindful of where you're at and what you're doing, right? I mean, that's
right.
the whole thing, be in the moment. But with coloring, I don't know if this is me specifically or maybe you experienced something similar, but when I would start coloring, like I could completely, 100% zone out, if you will, to where I wasn't focused on coloring at all, but my mind would just be going a million miles a minute. I was thinking about everything, that day, what I'm doing later, harder than meditation or when I was doing box breathing, because I think it's hard for everyone to slow down their brain, but it's almost like mine sped up when I was coloring.
Yeah, it's awesome that you brought that up, because I feel like it's almost like while you're coloring, it's almost like you have two sides of your brain when you're coloring. It's like you have the front kind of conscious portion, and then you have this kind of middle tier conscious portion of your brain. The front, where the thoughts that the things you're thinking right now is really blank, and you're just focused on coloring. But in that middle tier, it's almost like flash forward, just your brain's working double time and it's working through so many different things. I felt like that's what it was doing for me. It was almost like my brain was able to just really, kind of me step aside from my brain, just let it go on overdrive while I was just, putting my body to rest while I was coloring. So yeah, I totally understand what you're talking about.
And there's some research behind that about the amygdala being kind of released, which is a huge. It's part of your brain that's responsible
what's the
for
amygdala?
The fear response. It's really the fight or flight response comes from the amygdala, and apparently, not my opinion. This is from a doctor. He said that it kind of gets a break. It takes a break when you're doing coloring, and so that fear response that you might feel a lot of throughout the day or throughout the week, it gets to take a break and you just get to relax. And so I don't know if you free up some brain power by letting that portion of your brain relax and it just goes somewhere else. That energy goes somewhere else and you start just thinking, going crazy.
Yeah, it almost feels when you're thinking and going crazy, it almost feels like rejuvenating. The word I've kind of chosen to use several times now is that's kind of what it does. It's like you're working through processing so many things that you probably aren't able to put any time to because you're worrying or thinking about something else, or doing something else that you really benefit from when you're coloring. So, okay, so what'd you think? You thought definitely was not going to help at all. It's some silly coloring experiment. Why is Tom make me do this?
Yeah, kind of. I could see the benefit maybe for some other people, but definitely. You just want to know what I thought of up front?
Yeah.
So yeah, up front I was like, so for me personally, I hate coloring inside lines. So the second you mentioned this, I was like, okay, a torture experiment, great. This is going to be fun. That's just something I know about myself. I don't like to do tedious things. It's not from lack of fine motor skills. It's just from lack of, I don't like to do tedious things. And
right.
This, especially, the coloring book I had at least, had some of the tiniest lines in the world that just absolutely pissed me off. So it was not hugely de-stressing or anything like that. And I kind of thought that going in, maybe self-fulfilling prophecy, but no, I didn't think it was going to help me out. How about you?
Yeah, no, like I said, yeah, I definitely thought it was going to help. And I mean, to make sure, like you brought up coloring books, and it's fun that you brought that up because I bought 5 different types of these adult coloring books. I mean, it's funny, almost every single one of them says, like, a whole one right here, it says, color your way to better focus and art for mindfulness. And, there's some, like, geographic shapes and some landscapes and all kinds of stuff. But like you're saying, a lot of them are very meticulous and really, really detailed and small. So maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's part of gaining the focus aspect is you're in there so tight and detailed, trying to make sure you're coloring within these lines that that makes you focus. I don't know, but
I'd rather rip the book in half.
So let's talk about the actual experiment.
I do want to say real quick, if anyone at home wants to try this, just Google like adult coloring book printouts or something. I found a lot online. Tyler and I both got, like, he got multiple books and I got a book, but you can just print one of these out for free and give it because one of them it's gonna take you a while to do just one. So just print out one and do your own little experiment. So
and when you do it, try and notice after some of these things we're talking about. Do you feel a little less relaxed? I mean, a little more relaxed. Do you feel a little less stressed out,
or a little less relaxed? Yeah.
Or maybe in Jared's case, like we're going to talk about here with the approved, disapproved. But if you do decide to follow along, kind of, and go ahead and give it a shot yourself, then just trying to think about these things while you're doing it,
and then do it. All right. What else? What else? You got the...
Sorry, I had a cough, man. Okay, yeah. So the actual experiment, the way we did it was we put 10 to 15 minutes a day for 2 weeks towards it. I did 3 weeks. And sometimes it's probably a little bit more than 15 minutes because I would get into it, but I don't have kids yet like Jared does, but and then
I was going to throw the kids excuse in. Not tonight.
And then I journaled about it as well, about how I was feeling, afterwards, after I'd done these little sessions, just so I could note, for the show, what it was doing to me. So yeah, how'd you do it? I
mean, yeah, exact same. Not 3 weeks, but 2.
Right.
Fun experiment.
Fun?
No, I was trying to be nice. I didn't enjoy it. I could only handle about 10 or 15 minutes. And I feel like I'm so anti-coloring book that my answer is going to be obvious here shortly. But, man, I just did not like it. There was no part of me that enjoyed it. If it was really big, like there were some... I was coloring flowers the other day, which sounds ridiculous just to say out loud. And the bigger the flower, the better it was for me, because then I could just kind of zone out and, like, really color. But when it got really tedious... Because I knew that I didn't like the tedious stuff, right? So I was like, well, I'm not going to start there because I already know that I hate it. So I'm going to start like wherever the biggest separation of lines is located on the page. I'm going to go there first. I'd do that and then color. And I started to feel, I guess, what you're supposed to feel from an adult coloring book. And that's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm just kind of like, kind of zoned out and
like a floating feeling almost.
No. Just zoned out and a little bit more relaxed. And this isn't still fit the breathing with it I did there.
Yeah.
But when I'd go to the tedious stuff, I'd be like, okay, I've worked myself into this little zen-like state from my coloring over here. Now I'm going to go to some tedious stuff. The second I start on the tedious stuff, I just get pissed off and be like, man, why am I doing this? I could be doing something else right now. And then once my mind would go there, the whole session's kind of over because I'm not supposed to increase my cortisol levels by doing this.
Interesting. So, like, you got the positive benefits. You felt them. You got to experience them a little bit. And then you forced yourself into moving to some of the portions that you knew you would feel anxious coloring.
Yeah. So I just shouldn't color it. And that's... I shouldn't color the small stuff, but like I was recently told that I've heard this by like 2 or 3 really successful people now, that they do not finish books that they read. Like they'll get a book, they'll like maybe read a little bit of the beginning, a little bit of the end, and then flip through and see if there's anything interesting, and then maybe read some of that. Then they're done with the book. And I'm not talking about like I view them as successful. I'm talking about like owners of multi-million, billion-dollar companies that I like some events I've been to recently who say this, and I'm like, are you serious? Like,
so maybe focus isn't that important. You're gonna say
no. I'm just saying like they don't. Completion is not high on their priority list. They get what they want out of it,
right?
And then they're done. So maybe, in my case for a coloring book, maybe I should just color the big spaces and then leave the rest of the page blank.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
But the part of me that likes to finish things that I've started, like, also doesn't like that. So that would be a new trait I would have to go on. Maybe something we can experiment with. Not finishing things you start. I don't see how that can make you a better human, but apparently it does.
Well, I think coloring books, and just like what you're talking about, they're relative, just like some of our many of our experiments are. It kind of depends on you, and it depends on the person. And in this case, someone like Jared that doesn't, really feel relaxed when coloring small, tight little boxes or spaces or whatever, won't benefit from this. And that means that, that's good that you've heard the show, you've heard the experiment, and you know that you're one of those people that won't benefit from coloring, and you can go ahead and wipe it off your trial list or whatever you had on before now. So, that's just what it comes down to for every experiment that we have.
Have you ever, does your house have any popcorn ceiling? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, my house isn't that old.
Well, you know what I'm talking. You know what popcorn ceiling is, though.
I do. I know what it is.
What if someone told you that you had to count every single kernel of the popcorn ceiling?
Woof.
Would that drive you crazy?
Yeah, that would raise my anxiety level.
That's kind of what coloring inside the lines, tedious small lines, are for me.
Wow. I know the way you're describing it makes it sound bad. You're saying like tedious small lines, like it's so hard to do, but it's coloring. Yeah, so for me, it totally worked. When I was talking about like in my journals, it was like, oh man, like I think I even came to some new realizations for things in my life while I was doing it. After I'd finished, I was just like, wow, this is good stuff. Like my brain's working overdrive right now. That's the way I described it because that's how it felt for me when I was doing it. So, and for me, it's coloring. Like no matter how small of a box or how tedious or how tiny or whatever it was I was coloring, it's still coloring. Like it's still something my hand almost wants to do by itself without my brain having to use any capacity, any thought.
Maybe I didn't color enough as a kid.
I was a big colorer as a kid. Maybe that has something to do with it.
I think so. All right, man.
So yeah,
you want to move to the kill?
Yeah. So for you, Jared, what do you think? Approve, disapprove? This might be a tough one.
I don't like to approve or disapprove for the listeners because who knows what you will experience. But I absolutely 100% positively disapprove adult coloring books for me.
Yeah, what a surprise.
Yeah, I talked about how I hated it for 22 minutes.
But I think you did at least acknowledge some of the research that has been brought up, or at least talked about how it could help some people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I approve it because it backed up everything that we've read and found out about it, that this is what it'll do for you. I mean, really, really relaxing, help focus. I mean, slightly, I don't think it's near as much as a lot of the other things we do, like meditation that we talked about. But really reducing that stress level and that anxiety level, especially if you're right in the middle of like a tense kind of feeling or situation. I think if you jump straight to the coloring book, jump to that instead of other options. Hey, maybe that's a positive. Who knows?
Does it seem like you're creating like a
blanket?
Yeah, like like a security
like Lionel.
Where's my coloring book?
Or Linus.
I'm freaking out right now.
Well, but at the same time, I mean,
everyone needs a coping mechanism.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to abuse any one experiment or anything we have on the show, right? But if it can be used as a tool to help you reduce stress, then I think it's something to think about incorporating.
Yeah, or not either one. Either one.
Or not, yeah. If it's not going to help, then don't.
Do you think you'll continue coloring after this episode?
I bought 5.
It'll last you like 15 years.
Yeah, I mean, how much? Like seriously, like in that 15 minutes, if I really only did it 15 minutes for that session, like I really probably only colored like maybe an eighth of a page. Like these, you're right. These pages are really detailed and in depth and made for adults, not made for children. There's a distinct difference.
Oh yeah, I think I should get a kids coloring book. It would probably work better for me.
Yeah, you need a kids coloring book and some crayons, and you can just go in.
I'm painting a pretty bad picture of myself here. I just like to lift things up and put them down.
My art is with barbells.
Oh, come on. All right, are we good here? We're good. It's approved. It's a disapproved.
Approved and disapproved. It's a split decision, one of very few on this show. But
All
I
right.
think, yeah,
And that's it. Color or not, you go find out. But for us, it's halfway.
color or die. Thanks for listening, guys.
Peace.
Your best. Losers always whine about their best.